The $5 million mistake. No one noticed the transfer when it happened. At 2:17 a.m., while the city slept, $5 million moved from one corporate account to another. There was no alarm, no flashing warning, no frantic phone call in the middle of the night. Just a quiet digital confirmation buried inside a system that processed thousands of transactions every hour. By the time the sun rose, the money was gone, and no one could explain where it had gone or why. By 9 a.m., the building was no longer calm. Executives gathered behind closed doors, voices low but sharp. Emails flew across departments. The word incident appeared in subject lines, followed quickly by a more dangerous word: loss. $5 million was not an amount that could be ignored or quietly corrected. It was large enough to scare investors, large enough to trigger audits, and large enough to demand accountability. Someone had made a mistake. And in systems like this, a mistake always needed a name. Michael Turner arrived at work that morning like he always did. He took the same train, walked the same route, and swiped his badge at the same security gate. He worked in accounting support, a background role that required precision but offered little recognition. His job was to review routine transactions, close tickets, and make sure the system stayed balanced. He was not authorized to move large sums of money. He was not senior enough to approve major transfers, and he had never, in his 5 years at the company, been accused of anything more serious than replying late to an email. When he sat down at his desk, he sensed something was wrong. The office felt different, too quiet, too focused. People whispered instead of talking. Screens showed spreadsheets instead of emails. No one made eye contact. By the time Michael opened his inbox, his calendar had already been wiped clean. At 9:22 a.m., he received a message from Human Resources asking him to come upstairs. The room was small and windowless. 2 people sat across from him, their expressions carefully neutral. They asked him about a transaction he had reviewed earlier that week. It was a routine approval, one of hundreds he processed every month. The amount had been normal. The request had followed protocol. He explained this calmly, believing it was just a formality. They did not correct him. Instead, they asked him again. Then they asked him why his credentials appeared in the system logs close to the time of the transfer. Michael felt something tighten in his chest. He explained that his credentials were used constantly: automated systems, background scripts, scheduled processes. This was normal. This was known. The room remained silent. By the end of the meeting, Michael was escorted back to his desk. He was told to pack his belongings. He was told to hand over his badge. He was told not to contact anyone from the company. He was not told he was guilty, but he was treated like he was. That afternoon, an internal report began circulating. It did not accuse Michael directly, but it suggested irregular activity linked to a support-level account. In corporate language, that was enough. His name appeared once, then twice, then everywhere. Once a narrative starts inside an organization, it becomes self-sustaining. Every detail bends to fit it. Michael was suspended pending investigation. 2 days later, he was terminated. The company released a short statement saying they were cooperating with authorities and had identified a potential internal cause. No name was mentioned publicly, but internally, the message was clear. Michael Turner was responsible for the $5 million that had vanished. Lawyers became involved. Michael had never been inside a courtroom before. He learned quickly how language could make ordinary actions sound criminal. He learned how technical systems could be explained in ways that favored conclusions rather than truth. He learned how little patience institutions had for uncertainty when money was involved. The investigation focused on what was easy to explain, not what was accurate. Michael's account had touched the system. His name appeared in logs. His role was misunderstood. And most importantly, he lacked the power to defend himself against a corporation that wanted closure. The case never became headline news. There were no television cameras, no dramatic footage. It unfolded quietly through documents and hearings and closed-door discussions. To the outside world, it was invisible. To Michael, it was everything. His savings were frozen. His professional certifications were reviewed. Job offers disappeared the moment background checks were completed. Friends stopped calling, unsure what to say. His reputation collapsed faster than his finances. $5 million was missing. And somehow, Michael was expected to account for all of it. Years passed this way. Michael moved into a smaller apartment. He sold his car. He worked temporary jobs far below his qualifications, careful not to mention his past. Each application felt like a gamble. Each interview felt like a test he was already failing. The company moved on. They tightened controls. They reassured investors. The loss was quietly absorbed, categorized as fraud-related and buried inside annual reports. No apology was issued. No correction was made. The story was considered finished. Until a merger changed everything. During a routine audit tied to the merger, an external team began reviewing legacy systems. They found something odd, an automated script written nearly a decade earlier, long before Michael had joined the company. The script had been designed to rebalance internal accounts under specific conditions that no longer existed. But the script was still active. One rare combination of system triggers had caused it to execute unexpectedly. The result was a massive transfer, $5 million, sent to an internal holding account that was later cleared automatically. No human input, no approval, no crime. Just outdated code and years of neglect. The auditors documented everything. When the report reached legal counsel, silence followed. Admitting the truth would mean admitting negligence. It would mean acknowledging that the company had blamed an innocent employee to avoid deeper scrutiny. It would mean reopening a case they believed was closed. So they delayed. Michael's lawyer did not. When the report surfaced through discovery, the narrative collapsed instantly. The evidence was technical, precise, and undeniable. Michael had not caused the transfer. He could not have caused it. The system itself was responsible. The company settled quietly. Michael was cleared without ceremony. No public statement corrected the record. No announcement restored his reputation. The agreement included compensation, enough to cover damages, enough to survive. Not enough to undo the years lost. Michael walked out of the courthouse for the last time on a bright morning. He did not feel victorious. He felt tired. The money had never been the point. $5 million had come and gone, absorbed by systems far larger than any individual. The real cost had been human. The story ended without applause, without headlines, without justice in the way people imagine it. Just a quiet acknowledgement that the wrong person had paid for a mistake that never should have been blamed on anyone at all. And somewhere inside a system still running, thousands of lines of code continued executing, unnoticed, unquestioned, waiting for the next error and the next person easy enough to blame.